Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about music intervention in the therapy room. Is music a method we could use to help our nonverbal clients communicate? What about our clients specifically with autism spectrum disorder? Well, you are about to get all of the scoop. Lady Gaga is my inspiration because she uses her music as a source of healing and therapy. Pictured as Mother Monster next to little monster Owen. Owen has low functioning autism and is nonverbal. However, the very few words he communicates are Lady Gaga lyrics. Music and helping others are two things I have been passionate about my entire life. I've always wanted to know how I could tie something I love into my everyday work. This led me to my PechaKucha question. Does the use of music intervention improve verbal communication among young children with autism spectrum disorder? I began my research with the LSU HSC library and used the search terms music intervention, preschool, autism spectrum disorder, and verbal communication. I immediately found a systematic review titled Communication and Language Development of Young Children with Autism, a review of research in music. The authors stated that the purpose of this systematic review was to analyze recent literature on the use of music interventions for the development of language and pre-verbal and verbal communication skills in young children with autism spectrum disorders. Wow, this is exactly what I was looking for. This systematic review included a comprehensive search electronically among 3 databases, PsycInfo, ERIC, and ProQuest. The search terms used included autism, music therapy, vocabulary, language, and development. The inclusion criteria stated that it must have been a peer-reviewed journal in English, participants needed to be 0 to 8 years old, must be experimental or quasi-experimental designs, include the use of music intervention, targeted language and communication skills, and at least one of the researchers was a qualified music therapist. The authors stated that the results of this systematic review showed, quote, positive findings of the effects of music as an age-appropriate communicative medium, end quote. No clinical implications were discussed, so I was excited to dive deeper into some of the studies found in this review. A study that caught my eye from the systematic review was a randomized control trial that included children with ASD between the ages of 3 to 5. This study looked at music intervention as a source of verbal communication. The participants were split into 3 groups, a control group, a music intervention group, and a speech intervention group. Each group, besides the control group, took part in trainings to look at the outcomes of verbal communication. Both the music and speech intervention groups watched videos that included target words. The only difference was that the music intervention group targeted words in a song format, while the speech groups targeted their words with just spoken language. The results showed that verbal communication improved for high-functioning children with ASD in both the speech and music groups. However, children with low-functioning autism in the music intervention group used verbal communication more than children with low-functioning autism in the speech intervention group. Another randomized control trial looked at melodic-based communication as a form of music intervention versus traditional therapy to elicit responses in nonverbal children with ASD. Participants were put into 3 groups: the melodic-based group, the traditional speech therapy group, and the control group. The melodic-based intervention consisted of listening to target words on a CD, clapping to the rhythm, singing the words with the clinician, followed by the participant singing the words independently. The traditional speech therapy approach consisted of using the child's 3 primary reinforcers to reward them for the correct production of a stimulus word. Although there were no significant differences in the number of verbal attempts or correct words among the therapy groups, the melodic-based communication therapy group heard a significant number of new words, and they had more imitative attempts than the traditional therapy group. Another randomized control trial looked at how rhythm training improved the verbal communication of young children with ASD. The results showed that rhythm not only improved verbal communication, but also generalized learned skills to a standardized test conducted outside of training. This is exactly what we want from therapy. I ended with one final systematic review. The purpose of this systematic review was to look at how music intervention facilitated social, communicative, and verbal skills among young children with ASD. The search terms autism and music were used to gather information. The 4 inclusion criteria stated that the journals must be peer-reviewed, participants must range from 0 to 18, the participants were not experts in music, and studies needed to, quote, demonstrate experimental control by using a music intervention to address and identify behavior, end quote. The results showed that composed songs and improvisational music therapy were the main techniques used. The review did not go into much detail about how interventions impacted participants. Rather, the author suggested that the techniques talked about in the review should be tried out in both therapy and natural environments. In conclusion, the studies show that music intervention definitely plays a role in verbal communication in young children with ASD. I know that I definitely would like to incorporate some of these interventions into my therapy sessions to see if it would make an impact on my minimally verbal or nonverbal clients. It's all about trial and error. Do we have any questions?